Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about Friday's opinion from Judge Beryl Howell of the D.C. District Court. You may remember she was the chief judge for much of Trump 1.0, has seen their shenanigans very close up, including presiding over the trials of January 6th marauders, but also some of the different skirmishes and really kind of bad faith submissions by Trump 1.0, and then in between by Trump, the litigant, under threat of different kinds of lawsuits. Anyway, she issues a 102-page opinion about the Trump order to try to basically commandeer the Perkins Coie law firm that is just an absolute tour de force. In some ways, it's the strongest pushback yet from the judiciary. And one reason is it's been a little hard to keep track, but so much what has happened in these first 100 days has been procedural and preliminary. It's district courts saying, well, looks like there may be something here. I'm going to just hold things, put a temporary freeze on them so I can look it over. And that's promoted these screams of emergency from the Trump administration and pooling things to the Court of Appeals, etc. This is the actual merits, and it's along with an opinion by a district court judge in Texas about the Alien Enemies Act, which also struck down an executive order. These are really the first, here's the actual deal on the lawfulness, the final statement, at least from this judge, of the lawfulness of what Trump has tried to do. And man, oh man, she shreds him and rips the order into teeny little pieces and finds eight individual violations, multiple violations of the Fifth Amendment, multiple violations of the Sixth Amendment, multiple violations of the First Amendment, and just a complete rejection of really the bullshit rationale offered by Trump. Recall this whole scheme of his. Remember, he's gone after certain law firms, and they are the firms that have in his mind, deserve payback from him. Perkins Coie had a couple attorneys, they don't have them anymore, who represented Democrats and Democrat causes. Jenner Block hired a deputy of the Robert Mueller investigation briefly after he left the Mueller investigation. It obviously has nothing to do with what Trump asserts is the whole basis of the order and try to get away with it, national security. So the argument is actually in that order, we're doing this to counter risks to national security, which is, it's worse than a joke. It is really kind of repugnant that, right, the executive who's responsible for taking care of the laws all be discharged faithfully is instead just totally twisting facts and law. But he had worked in a couple places because he brought law firms to heel, Paul Weiss, Skadden Arps. And, even though Perkins Coie has won emphatically, it's not 100% of a, unalloyed victory, because it's still going to be the case that this petty tyrant is heading the government, and clients of Perkins Coie, I think, could still be cowed about going forward. Nevertheless, good for them that they fight hard, and man, are they vindicated. So back to the Howell opinion. 102 pages. The bulk of it is just setting out the facts and the law, and you can't take punish. The real cardinal principle that's been so plainly, rawly violated is you can't punish citizens, organizations, anything based on the viewpoint or content of their speech. That's really what's happened here, and it's not too mysterious. People have said things or represented people and said things that oppose Donald Trump, and that's why they are being, put in the doghouse, and that's unlawful. It's unlawful discrimination against their speech. It's also unlawful to have reprisals against their speech as they have. It's unlawful violation of due process. Nobody knew this was coming or any kind of warning. It's unlawful violation of the right to counsel component of both the Fifth Amendment and the Sixth Amendment. So including the right to counsel that others not before the court have, the ones who might want to use Perkins Coie. It's just, a complete kind of law school, constitutional law exam question of absolute dereliction of it's the consummate opposite of the responsibility of the executive to discharge the laws and uphold the Constitution, which, by the way, you couldn't have missed over the weekend. Trump literally said he doesn't know if he's supposed to uphold the Constitution. Just, I could riff on that now for another 20 minutes. I won't, but share with me for 5 seconds of silence the notion that the President of the United States says he's not sure if he's supposed to uphold the Constitution of the United States that he swore an oath on. Thank you. That's where we are. But there's more to the Howell opinion. So there's a very chapter, letter, and verse, absolute decimation of the, I mean, it's embarrassing, really, if it weren't for the fact that Trump and the administration are shameless and will just say to anyone who holds against them, oh, they're crazy Marxists, whatever. It would be such tail between your legs, have to slink away, that they have tried brazenly to get away with it. But Howell does something more, and I think it's a really important part of this development, which is, in addition to going through in the sort of broad middle, very broad middle, like, page 2 to page 100 of her methodical opinion, she draws the broader corollaries of how orders like this harm not just the bottom line of Perkins Coie partners, but really the judicial system, the adversary system, the notion that, the whole, and Howell's very good about this. The Supreme Court's been very good about this. It's not just does Perkins Coie make a good living? It's, do judges and the judicial system and juries get to hear what the and get to the benefits of a whole adversary system, which is our way of getting at the truth in important disputes, and for judges to being well advised when you incapacitate or hamstring lawyers like this, and especially prominent ones who really play important roles in the settlement of big social controversies. You hurt you rend the social fabric more broadly. You make it harder and undermine the ability of not the law firms, but the system to come to truth, to come to fairness, to really, and provide for equal justice for all under law. That's the point she makes, and it's true. You contrast us here with, Hungary and Russia and the examples that come up, and lawyers there may not take any position that is in some ways critical of the regime of Orban or Putin. And that is just part and parcel of the absence of a functioning rule of law and even independent judiciary, as well as lawyers, that mark those countries as authoritarian, as totalitarian states. So Howell's opinion is strong and a landmark for not simply redressing the direct injuries to Perkins Coie, but tying them to broader efforts by Trump, which is really important because when he's successful in sort of isolating out people and kind of shaking down one at a time, it's that element that can be obscured. Now, I've emphasized all the way along the important distinction, not just, as many people think, between, Democrat and Republican, but between trial court, Court of Appeals, and Supreme Court. And let me just say on this one, it is so patently unconstitutional. And her opinion is so comprehensive. I don't see an important issue that the D.C. Circuit, which sits above House, could reverse. And even if they could, there's such a plethora of different meritorious issues. So I think basically, I could be being overly sanguine, or I think basically this puts the nail in the coffin legally to the different efforts he's tried to do to shake down law firms, some of whom now are, it's too late. They've made agreements. You can agree to do things that a government couldn't force you to do. And that may be the fate of some of these firms that were pretty damn cowardly not to push back, and I think stupid as well. But my best guess is this whole kind of effort on his part, and it's connected. I won't say it similarly does away with, but I think it casts a shadow now over what he's done in parallel industries like media and universities, and trying now and not in NGOs. I think this law firm cottage industry of slapping them around and getting them to capitulate, I think any law firm that wants to fight back, the law will settle in the direction of the Howell opinion, because the Howell opinion is so forceful and so right about issues that judges in particular, appellate judges and trial court judges, really care about. So to me, it's a big blow, period. And I really like the fact that it is tied to so much of Trump's basic MO of shaking down individual entities in rich industries. But I think particularly for this law firm stuff, I don't see how they're going to go forward in the same way, at least once this opinion goes through appellate review and is affirmed, which is what I expect to happen. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.